Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast, number 116. Woo!
Today is sponsored by my curly hair.
I was going to say, right now we've been talking a ton about the coronavirus, what's going on in our industry, and I'm like, Ani, I have to say, this whole quarantine thing is working out well for you. Your hair looks great.
Do you want to know what it is?
Like, you're dressed in, like, a cute outfit. Usually, like, when I see you, you look like you're, like, dying because you have so much work going on and shit going on, and I'm like, what?
Do you know what it is?
Huh.
I have a routine now. I haven't had a routine pretty much in the past 6 months.
Because you've been traveling and been crazy with classes and
yeah,
events.
and I wake up at 5 and I immediately look at my phone and it's like fires all over the place. And this time I'm like, nope, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to walk my little nugget Ronald. I'm going to work out. Like, I have a routine.
I was laughing so hard, too, because you posted the cutest picture of your hair curly and you're like, I'm going nowhere. And I was like, welcome to, like, stay-at-home mom life or, like, vlogger life. Like, we go nowhere, but we, like, get ready for the Instagram. We're like, woke up like this.
I look real cute. That's literally how I felt. And I'll be honest, all I've done for 3 days is brush my hair.
I'm surprised. Those curls have held in so good. If you guys want to see what we look like live, head over to dkwstyling.com. It's my hair blog, but you can see we have this whole thing filmed, and Ani's hair is very lion-esque. I ordered that curling iron, but it won't come till tomorrow. But I have another chi iron that I'm going to try it with tonight, so I can do it for the curly hair challenge tomorrow.
I was pretty stoked about it. So I'm sure you guys have seen, by the time you guys will be listening to this, yesterday, which will be Monday for you guys, we did a curly hair challenge over the weekend. And I think what I'm going to do is touch this up and make it even bigger.
Ooh, yeah.
And that will be my
kind of
curly
like
hair.
tease it, like take a pick and like tease it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be big. So
I
I'm
like
stoked. But yeah, I didn't even press my stopwatch. Damn. I always forget to do that.
Okay, so we want to talk about what, like, things are crazy right now.
It's still crazy.
It's still crazy. Like, not only is it like, so like half the salons across the country are now closing down because of coronavirus and everything that's going on. And I think in the beginning we were all thinking like, oh, 2 weeks, like whatever, like I can hunker in for 2 weeks. And now we're like, shit, 6 weeks. Okay. Well,
it might
it's
be
like,
a full month.
Yeah. And then we're thinking, oh, maybe a couple months. And so we're slowly like, you can feel like the energy out there. Like I went to Target yesterday and I just was like, it made me, I'm not even a huggy person. And I wanted to go up and be like, give me a hug, like in the middle of the Target aisle. Not really, but like, but you know what I mean? Like I was like, I miss that. Like in a way, I'm like, you could like the energy is so weird. Like just like taking for granted a smile or a hi or a hug or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm
and
like,
you know what I think? Because in case you don't know, we're in Orange County, California, and I think it is a little more serious and severe here because we're one of the 3 states with the highest cases. Right. So I'll say even one of our trainees, she's in Utah. Utah hasn't closed salons.
Yeah.
They're actually opening things back up because they had a downtick in the cases.
Oh, that's good. Because they closed a lot of restaurants. My family lives there and they said they're just takeouts open like here.
Yeah. But no, the salon, Alley Salon is still open. And she's like, they're going to leave us open because they're seeing less cases of coronavirus. Cool. And I'm like, well, good for you guys in your social distancing.
Yeah, you guys.
Damn it. Do you think the temple still open? Is church still open?
No, they don't go. Their churches are closed. They've been doing everything. Yeah, it's not open.
Virtual church.
Virtual church. Seriously, no, they do what's called conference every year. It's like a huge thing, and it'll be virtual this year.
Oh, fascinating.
So, and that's down at the Temple Ground. So, yeah.
So one thing that we really wanted to talk today is. I know things are crazy, and we're not going to keep harping on how fucking psychotic it is. Right. Although Trump did sign the $2 trillion. You know
what is nuts to me? I don't want to get into politics, but where do we get $2 trillion? That just comes out of the taxpayers. So basically, it's like so we don't drown, but then we're going to have to pay more taxes, but so we can survive now because the government can't afford to pay for everybody who's filing for unemployment. So what the
3.3 million people filed for unemployment.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. They had to pass this bill because there's no money for people to pay in
the economy's a wreck.
So now they passed this bill, but where do we get $3.3 trillion? That's just going to come out of
$2 trillion.
2, 3.
I'm like, don't make it. She's like $65 trillion.
I just hear trillion, and I'm like, where does that come from?
Well, and it was so funny. I was sitting there talking to Jer, and I was like, that's 100 billions, and he's like 200 billions, and I'm like,
it's just nuts to me because I'm like, where do we get the money? And then I'm like, I know that just comes out of taxes.
It's insane.
So it's
I also
insane.
said that wrong. It's 100 billions.
I just hear trillion, and my mind is like, I'm like, how many zeros
are we at? Because we had a lot of zeros.
Yeah,
but it's so because I understand that things are crazy right now, and I think in a couple of weeks, I really do think it's going to start getting better because people are taking it a little bit more seriously. But there's also a big thing that I feel is happening that people are either Like, I feel we're very accepting of the situation. I'm not a pessimist by any means.
Right.
Also, I'm not even an optimist. I'm more of a realist.
Yeah.
That I'm like, hey, this works, this doesn't work. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, which can go really great for me. Or sometimes I might sound like doom and gloom.
I would say I'm very similar to you in that way. And I think sometimes it comes across negative. But I'm like, no, I'm just looking at both options. Like, let's weigh out the options.
Just letting you know, like, some things aren't going to work.
Right.
And so while we sit in a place of being very realistic, I feel there's almost the opposite end of the spectrum where people are like, I'm just not going to think about it. That wine looks great, though. And all of a sudden it turns into, instead of accepting the reality of the situation and figuring out, okay, now what can I do to handle this? How can I move forward? We start to sedate.
Right.
And that's now being at home, I feel, is definitely a bigger problem.
I think it's even harder, like, because we're home. And like I was telling my staff yesterday, I'm like, does anybody know what day it is? Like, is it Tuesday? Is it Monday? It's Friday. It's Friday. Like, it's just weird. And so every day turns into the same day. And every day you're like, should I have a glass of wine? I'm kind of stressed, but yet it kind of feels like a weekend because I'm at home. Like, where am I at?
And this topic of avoidance in general, really, guys, it's not just now because you're either under a full-on lockdown or they're just saying social distancing should be happen, or you might even be quarantined actually listening to this podcast. But it's not just something that we do now. We've even said before, like, artists, when it comes to looking at their numbers, they're like, oh, I can't now because I have like a thing to do.
Or we touched base last week on how, like, we always want more time, and then when we have to work on numbers or look at things inside of our business, we always do it at the end of the day when we're completely depleted, and those are not like good hours to be focusing on your numbers.
Especially things that are so wildly important.
Like if anything, you should put like that first thing in the morning and then go into work at like maybe noon or something instead, and work from like noon till 8 or whatever it is.
Well, and it's so interesting. One of our trainers, we've been having calls with our staff and calls with our trainers and all of our students, and we had a big trainer meeting yesterday, and one of the girls, she was like, look, she's like, day one that I'm sitting at home, she's like, I have 2 little kids, and I have a glass of wine in one hand, a phone in the other, because I'm like, holy shit, like, her salon is actually fully closed, period, closed for 5 weeks. They can't do home visits. There's a lot they can't do because it's like a full lockdown. She's out on the East Coast, and she's like, I'm standing there, glass of wine in one hand, phone in the other, and she just had this moment where she was like, you can't drink right now.
Right.
Like, you're drinking because you're fucking stressed. This is not worst case scenario. It could definitely get worse. It's just not a good scenario. And she even said, she's like, I know when I drink wine, it gives me that feeling of like, all right, it's fine. She goes, I literally looked at my glass of wine, went to my sink, poured it down. I wanted to weep a little because that's a waste of wine. And she's like, I love me some wine. And she goes, and then I sat there, and she goes, I didn't meditate, but I literally took a few deep breaths and was like, okay, what has to happen? And she's like, I got to pay some fucking bills. Yeah. She's like, I went through, paid what was detrimental to pay, and then sat on the phone for the next few hours calling everyone and deferring payments. And I think hearing what she had said, a lot of people aren't willing to look that almost like hard inward.
Right.
At what it is
and it's not even like, I like that she shared that she did that, because it wasn't just like, oh, hey, I have enough cash flow in the business, we'll be fine. She kind of went like, there's this place where it's like, you're not panicking, but you're like very realist, like you said, like, okay, if shit hits the fan, like, what do I need to make sure is taken care of right now? And like having that conversation of like, okay, I probably don't need to have this right now, and I need to pay for this right now. And even Garrett and I, like, we're good, but we have had a few hard conversations as well, as like, okay, we're spending too much here. Like, this needs to go. This needs to be adjusted. Like, what, like, do we need this right now? So I think it's like this time is such an eye opener right now, and you have to be willing to not like bury your head in the sand and really like this is like crunch time.
When here's the deal, the more that you try to hide and push things off now, it just becomes a bigger problem later. Like, you can't do that. And I feel like everybody is doing that same thing, because I even sat down and I'm like, all right, what are you doing recently? And for me, I feel like, not that I'm like a total stingy bitch when it comes to my own money, but I'll splurge on some things, but then I'm generally kind of a stingy bitch about it.
Right.
And I literally sat down and I'm like, okay, You just sold your home. Cool. That's quite some money that you're not paying anymore. Also,
you sold it. Good timing.
Hallelujah. I sold it before everything fucking crashed.
Yeah, that's good.
Holy bejesus. So I'm looking at that, and I literally pulled up all my accounts. I'm like, okay, here's my savings. Here's my checkings. Here's how much comes out every month. Where am I at? And I'm like, smart girl. You've been saving and smart fucking girl. So I was kind of giving myself a pat on the back. I'm like, great. What do you need to stop doing? And I'm like, stop fucking shopping, number one. And I know you're guilty of this one too, but it's like,
literally I bought like a few things online that were on sale. And then I was like, where am I going? I'm going nowhere. But I did buy, I have to say, not that I'm justifying my shopping, but I feel like Easter, everything's going to still be shut down. And it, for me, like, I want to make it like still an experience for my girls. So I bought Easter dresses.
Okay, but that's different than like.
But I also bought like 3 dresses for myself. I didn't need 3.
You're the worst. Yeah. I'm just kidding. You're the best.
But
actually.
I was like that. That's like I kind of splurged a little bit because I was like, no, I want to. I'm like, it's kind of weird and sad and like.
But see, those I feel not that it turns into like necessity versus not.
Yeah,
but you have 3 children who cannot leave their home, and yeah, your house is cool. I feel like every day, but it doesn't matter to give children a sense of normalcy. Easter Bunny's still coming this year.
Right.
Don't worry. Also, I will eat any candy you don't want them to eat. I'm all about that.
Don't worry. I was like worried I didn't know what was going to be open. I've already got baskets and everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm prepared.
Well, I even went to, and something to even consider is when you're ordering from Amazon, they're now prioritizing. They're
I know.
I went to order, okay, this makes me sound ridiculous, but my little dog, he has dry paws. So I ordered him some paw lotion. I don't need judgment from any of you. It's
not a necessity for your dog to have hand lotion right now.
But his paws
paw lotion.
But his little paws were cracking. That doesn't feel good. Do you want your skin to be dry as fucking cracking?
I mean, it probably is.
I mean, mine is too, but it doesn't. But I didn't want that for him. So I went to order on Amazon, and they
it's
were like,
priority shipping.
They were like, hey, it'll take a month because this is not a priority in what we're shipping. And I was like, but his paws are dry. So I went straight to the company and ordered it. It'll be here tomorrow.
Oh, geez.
Or Monday.
But no, I think it's good to like kind of be aware and prioritize. Like, okay, well, what do I need right now? Is this a necessity? Because I think honestly, things were getting a little bit wildly out of hand. Like, don't you feel like it was just like with the economy in general, it was starting to like everything was rising until like the bubble kind of like bursts or pops. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, everyone's like, oh, reeling in a little bit. And I don't think this is going to be bad as like the when the market crashed. And
I don't think it'll be as bad as people think. I think they're hitting a bit of like a doom
panic,
and gloom of like everything's burning. It's like, well, calm down. But even then, gosh, what was I about to say? When it comes to like things that are happening right now, going back to our trainer who was like, you know what? I can't do wine. So what I have to do right now is figure out all of my bills. And then once she even did all of that, she sat down and she was like, this is fucking nuts, but okay, what is next? Mm-hmm. And then she went through and actually created a packet for all of her employees that were furloughed and claiming unemployment and what they maybe could get and possibly. And that really helped them as well. And I think in this time, you have to keep your head on as much as you possibly can. Right. So if you're doing things like drinking, or once again, in California, weed is super legal here. It's like having a glass of wine. Or if you're smoking weed all the time, to numb it because you're so fucking stressed, you need to put all of that shit down and start handling things one at a time. Because if she had looked at her plate and been like, oh my God, I have to furlough all of my employees and then I have to help them with unemployment because they don't even know how to Google it, and then I have to do all my bills, and it's too much.
Well, the crazy thing is, and I was telling our educators yesterday, I'm like, we can't afford to lose a day. So for me, wine makes me super hungover, even if I only have like 2 glasses. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't have time. I'm a mom. I'm a business owner. Like, I don't have time to lose a day. And funny story, I haven't drank any wine since probably before Christmas. Mm-hmm. And there's too much sugar in it. I love it, but I just kind of gave it up. Yeah. And on Wednesday, there was like my favorite wine was on sale, and we went to go get takeout. And so my husband doesn't even drink wine, and we bought a bottle and we shared a bottle of wine. So I had like 2.5 glasses. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I was so hungover the next day, and I was like, I don't have time for this shit. I was like so annoyed with myself. I was like, this is why you don't drink wine. And it feels good in the moment, but then you wake up, you feel guilty, you feel shitty, you feel unproductive. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'll still have like a cocktail here and there, and I don't get hungover from that. But like wine, I cannot do it. And I was like, oh.
And see, I don't drink just because it doesn't taste good enough to me for me to care to even do it. Yeah. So I don't. Now, I'm going to be straight up. Will I have an edible every now and again? Yes, I will. And before you come at me, it's legal here in California. Like, it's literally like having a glass of wine.
I like how you said to me one time, though, and I'm kind of the same way. You're like, I don't like, I don't do that when I'm sad. And I'm kind of the same way. Like, if I have a cocktail, it's more like me and my husband are like, well, date nights are kind of hard right now. We'll literally go to his office and like watch a movie.
Do you know I saw that? I'm like, oh, that's so cute.
His office is like right next to our house, and we have kids, so we'll sneak over there and we'll like watch a movie and we'll have a cocktail in his office. But to me, like, I'm not drinking because I'm sad. I'm drinking because it's like date night and like whatever.
It's fun. But yes, I'm very, very, very big on that. So I feel like if you're like, for me, anytime I've gone through a breakup or work has been so stressful to the point of tears, because I feel like people see what we do and they're like, that's so fun. And it is. I would trade this for nothing. But the weight and the pressure that also comes with building this, some days it's like,
well, and it's so crazy because so there's salons closing across the nation. I have a salon. Plus, we have 300 students that pay us monthly to be inside of DKW Styling Academy that are all facing the same problems. You don't think that's pressure and stress just goes, boom. And like, I can't just hide my head in the sand. Like, if there's a time for me to step up as a leader, it's now. And it's funny because this is actually when I birthed my this brand in the beginning was when the market was crashing. And I remember my husband, Garrett, like, it was almost like I could see the storm and I was just like in La La Land and I was like, whatever. And we just kept spending and putting our heads in the sand. And then we had no money. And then we were racking up credit card bills. And then we couldn't pay our credit card bills. And then we couldn't pay our house payment. We had to short sell our home. And then we were just like drowning. And it could have been prevented, but we didn't want to take our heads out of the sand, and we just kept thinking, it'll come out of this, we'll come out of this, it'll be fine. And so, but that's really what birthed my brand, is because I actually perform somewhat well under pressure, but my goal now is like, now I'm recognizing the signs that trying to compare it to the market crashing, but it's a scary situation. And to pretend like it's not happening is not going to help anybody. Like, this should be like a pretty big eye opener for everyone to, even if it doesn't only last, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever, but just to really take this opportunity to look like and say, okay, what am I avoiding inside of my business right now?
Or what have you not done that you should have? And I'm going to use a really big example. Is I know most of you who are listening to this are hairstylists. Have you been saving any money?
Yes, artists are not great at saving money.
Like, honestly, take a look at both your accounts, your personal account and your business account. If you're not shut down, props, keep working. But if you are, how long can you last? And that will really tell you something that's happening inside of your business that you need to change. Maybe some people should be let go. Maybe you hired on too many people and you're like, why the fuck am I paying so many people for these shenanigans?
Why do I have so much overhead? Is this worth it? Like, your business should be more than just sustaining. And sadly, a lot of salon owners don't actually make money unless they're behind the chair. And so they take on tons of revenue, tons of stress, and they're like, I'm only making money when I'm behind the chair. And then to me, I'm like, well, then why the fuck do you own a salon? Like, if your salon can't run without you there, which that's the very reason we open salons, is to be like, oh, if I want to take a month off, I can, and we're still going to be profitable and whatnot. But if you can't, then this is probably a huge eye-opener to be like, well, shit, my salon can't sustain unless I'm actually physically working behind the chair.
So then what needs to shift and change and adjust? But also, don't get so overwhelmed now that you do the head bearing or you start drinking or, God forbid, you start doing drugs. Like, don't go to that route to do anything. But also, what are the code reds? Right here, right now. Have you handled your bills? Have you messaged your landlord? Have you called them? Have you figured out something to where you don't have to pay maybe rent this month and you can bump it and split it between the next few months? Like, have you actually handled the things you need to? Or are you so fucking scared and nervous that you're like, I can't? Because I'm telling you, you can. And if you don't, it will just get worse.
Yeah.
Weird example, one of our girls, Amanda Ziola at DKW, she had, I think it was like really bad allergies, and she got like a sinus infection. Sinus infection turned into an ear infection. She's like, it's fine. It'll go away. It's fine. It's fine. And then literally the day she was supposed to do my hair, she's like, Ani, I can't see out of my left eye. Like, it's really blurry. And I'm like, there's something leaking out of your eye. Her ear infection got so bad, it started leaking out of her eyeball. I'm like, that's what happened when I told you to go to the fucking doctor weeks ago and you didn't go. Think of this as a big infection. You have to take care of it. And if you don't, you get a gross leaky eyeball.
It's crazy because even this last year when I was pregnant and I knew I needed to focus more on like my business and like just be more involved with all my team members and the direction we're going and the planning, and I couldn't step away from the chair, and I'm like freaking pregnant and I'm just like still doing hair and everything, and I remember the back of my leg started to hurt, and I was like, oh, I'm fine. I kept working. I remember Amanda looked at me one day, I walked in, she's like, the back of your knee is purple, and I had developed a blood clot, which is crazy because usually that only happens if you're like sitting around a lot. But when you're doing hair, you're stationary for a while. You're standing in one spot. And my baby, I always felt like sat on kind of like the right side. I saw the signs. It would hurt and it was achy and it would like flare up here and there. And then I just was like, I'm fine. I just kept telling myself, I'm fine. I need to be here. This is where I need to be. And then it was like a big red sign, not like literally a big sign on the back of my knee. And I went in, had an x-ray, had a blood clot. And he's like, I would probably recommend like probably not doing hair, or if you are, you need to be like sitting and standing and sitting and standing. You can't like stand stationary, and it's so hard. I don't sit and do hair. I can't. It's hard for me. And I just was like, I can't do. I know myself well enough. Like I'll just stand there all day. Like I won't. I tried to sit down and do all that. So anyways, I ended up just like stopping behind the chair. But in doing that, I was able to see things in my business that I was like so terrified. Like I'm not good at the number stuff, or I'm not good at like planning this, or I'm not good at this and this and this and all these stories. Hair's just fun. The art's fun. I love my clients. I just want to be fun. I just want to have fun. and so I had to really like be like, okay, well I'm not behind the chair right now. So what can I plan? What can I do? And in doing that, I'm like, okay, like this is where I needed to be. And so oftentimes what we think is scary, if we start somewhere like Candace did. We start, what do I need to do right now? We start there and we start to see the possibilities and what we can do. And I would suggest everybody out there do that. Like if you're overwhelmed, stop ignoring the signs and just look, what can I do right now? What do I need to do right now? And then you'll feel that weight be kind of like lifted off your shoulders.
Oh, for sure. And here's the thing I always tell people as well. I understand that being the leader and being the people that everybody go to, like that's hard. And no one knows about that more than Danielle and I do. You don't have to be strong all the time. Like, honestly, you don't. And it's even if you're like, I'm going to cry, I need a minute. That doesn't make you weak either. You're human. It's okay to be like, I am feeling such an overwhelming feeling of emotion. I have to get it out of my system. I had that like a couple weeks ago and I was like, you got 15 minutes. You can, literally, I'll
cry
be like,
out for 15.
Literally, I'm like, you got 15 minutes to cry, get this out. And after I was like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing. And then I started messaging you and then Crystal and Katie and being like, we need to and it went great after. And we made so many plans. We had emergency meetings. But I knew I'm like, I can't go on my day feeling this way because it felt like the weight of 300 people looking at me going, Ani, what am I supposed to do? Help me. What do I do? What do I do? Yeah. And even then my inbox was dinging left and right. People going, did you hear? What about this? What do I do? What about, and I'm like, okay, I need 15 minutes and then I will come back. And ever since then, I've been perfectly fine. But guys, this happens and that's normal. Just don't let yourself stay there or try to sedate by doing something that takes you out of the good mindset of, I'm going to handle some fucking shit.
Right.
Because literally no one can afford to do that right now. Not when businesses are closing. The economy is not doing great. It's a little bit of a wreck. Like, you just can't afford to do that.
Yeah. I feel like if you do, it's just going to like prolong itself. It's just going to like, all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait, this is serious. Like 3 weeks in, you're going to be like, shit. And for me, I'm like, what can we do right now? Yes. And if you can kind of get ahead of the curve and innovate, you might create like systems and processes and like even on like for us, I'm so glad this last year that I was like, you know what? I have this like premonition that we need to do everything online based. And now I'm like, thank God, like, because last year we had events like every quarter and like that's how they got their value. That's how they like no, I'm not kidding you, but that's how they got their value was coming to events. And I was like, this is not as productive as we think it is. And we kind of switched the model and everything like that. And I just think that in our industry right now, like things are so crazy. And a couple of the things that we've been doing is like helping, like shipping color kits. We've been selling gift cards and like things like that help. Like it's innovating and not being like, okay, crap. But then also taking this opportunity, like, yeah, what can you do to keep your business afloat right now? But also, what can I do when I go back? What am I seeing right now? Why is my business not afloat? Why do I only have cash for 3 weeks instead of 6 months, or whatever it is? So I think it's just, it's so crazy, but I would say instead of being that person that's like, whatever, going for the glass of wine every night and like acting like it's spring break, to really use this opportunity as like okay, things need to shift. There's always something that can shift.
Always.
Literally, Garrett and I went for a walk this morning, and he was like, I need your help, because I was gonna say they call me the Jew.
Danielle, you know who's a cheap bastard? Danielle's a cheap bastard.
I know everyone thinks I'm like bougie as shit, and I am, but man,
Danielle is one
a cheap
motherfucker.
I'm a cheap ass bitch. Like, but you know what? I'm very conservative. Like I'm. It's funny because I'm like, you have somebody like Garrett who's not conservative at all. And then you have somebody like our CFO, Jeff, who's like very tight. And then I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I can dream, I can visualize, I can sell. But you better believe I'm like, well, where can we cut costs? Like how do we be the most profitable? Like for me, like that's just how my brain works.
Yes, absolutely.
And so even Garrett was like, okay, he like was like, I want you to come in and look at Warrior. And I was like, okay.
You're like, I'm gonna put my CEO pants on. They're a little stretchy, but I got this one.
Because we split the businesses this year.
Yes.
And I was like, there's like this is what the businesses are doing individually. And I feel like I'm glad that we did that so that we both could see what was going on. And I think that like for me, because we have so many businesses, I think it's important to have, if you have multiple businesses, to have each business be able to operate independently.
Absolutely.
And not suck from one another. And that's kind of what had been happening. And I was like, we can't do this because we don't know how profitable we are because we're like a blur of how many businesses we have. So even just separating, I think I was like, Garrett helped us build everything to where it is. But I think I had a moment this morning here. He was like, good fucking job. I was like, yeah. Woo,
I know.
Woo,
Look, to be honest, I messaged the CFO and I'm like, okay, real talk. If no money were to come in, how long does the salon last? How long does BMS last? What about this? And even not even my fucking company. I'm like, I just need to know. You don't have to tell me how much is in the account. I don't fucking care. I just want to know how long do we last?
We live?
If no money. Yeah, we can. I know, me too. But literally, and it's not even my business, but I treat your money like I treat mine. And I'm a real stingy bitch with mine, excluding a couple things here and there. But it's true. Like I spend other people's money less than I spend my own because there's always been, and I think that's why, like sorry, I'm gonna throw Warrior under the bus for a second. They got all their cards confiscated. We never did because we don't spend anything.
Right.
They're just like,
but that's because, I mean, they were bringing in so much, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. You still have to know what you're spending, what you're bringing in. Like it just doesn't matter. Like I literally, like I could be bringing in a ton and I'm like, how much are those notebooks, Katie? How much are we spending on those notebooks? But that's just where my mind, because every little detail, I'm like, every little detail matters. I'm like, no, we're not getting those notebooks. We're getting these bags and these and this. And I look for where does my money hit the most value? Like, where does it have the most impact, I guess? You know what I mean? And that's just how my brain works. So just having those crucial conversations with people you work with your spouse, whatever it is, like literally look at everything. It might be a little bit scary. Don't drink while you're looking at what you need to go over, and make some hard decisions, because if you don't, it will come back and it'll bite you in the ass.
So guys, thank you for being here with us today. If you want to see our mannerisms and my curly ass hair, go to dkwstyling.com.
Curl mine tonight.
And we'll be back next week. So as always, stay safe, stay healthy, practice social distancing, and please wash your hands.
Bye.